In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.
Hello, world. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jake Johnson, and all of this is Untethered Live. Untethered Live on a Monday night. It's Monday already. It feels like it's Monday, but I mean, it's Monday. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those days. Long day. Worked all day today. Good day. Good busy day. How are you doing? How are things where you are? Is the weather as nice where you're at as it is where I'm at? A little brisk, a little cold, but bright and sunny, no rain. Good riding weather, good hammock weather, good wrapping up in a blanket weather. That's always good. I hope you're having a wonderful night. Caucasian Sasquatch, what's up, my brother? Glad to have you lurking in the background. Hadn't talked to you in so long, I forgot what you sound like. Been busy, I know. I've been busy too. Between podcast, work, and 2 bands, I barely got enough time to eat, let alone do anything else. I totally understand. How's your search for the van going? I hope it's well. Hope you found what you're looking for. Had an interesting podcast last night. Had one of them question askers that just wouldn't stop asking questions. And it got progressively stranger as the night went. It's interesting. I held my own, but, you know, those nights are to be recorded. And so they were. Anyway, if you feel like being entertained, that's a good one to watch. Folks, if you get the chance, I know it's an aggravation, but it's necessary at this point in time. If you get the chance and you haven't done so already, please take a minute, open up a new tab and go to rumble.com/untetheredlive and hit the subscribe button. I need to build that channel up to 25 subscribers so I can start live streaming over there. And I need all the help I can get. So if you'll oblige me, go over and subscribe to rumble.com/untetheredlive so that I can build an alternative to YouTube. As you know, a couple weeks ago I was censored for a week for something I said 2 years ago. That is my right as an American to say. However, YouTube has decided you can't say that. They're acting like a publisher and not a public platform. That's their business. It's their company. But I don't have to sit there and take it, so I need an alternative. I have one. I just need to build it up a little, and I need your help. You can also check us out on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon Prime and iHeartRadio and CastBox and OverCast and Google Podcasts and just about anywhere, any mainstream place that podcasts are delivered or video chats. You can find us there. But the Rumble is the one. That's the one I'm moving to just as quick as I can build up some clout over there. I've spent 5 years building this channel. I imagine it's going to take a little while to build that one. Oh, got to get your truck back. Where's your truck at? Before you can van hunt hardcore. I got an idea what I want. Well, that's excellent. Van. Thought you told me that. Or you got a specific van in mind. It's good. I am a waffler. I want everything. And I have to narrow it down to the thing that I really need or whether I need it or not. And then eventually I can get something. Usually guitars are like that. I want every guitar. They're all great. You're putting on a fuel pump on your truck, I got you. Well, when you get that done, you'll be able to get into the nuts and bolts of finding your van. No pun intended. We got an excellent read coming up tonight. We're in the great book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9, verse 9. This book is slow going. Seems as if it is. Of course, there was some time off after we started this book because of the coof. I got sick, so I had to take some time off. But I'm back, and everything's good. Wife Squatch seems serious about a new van. Well, that's good. You need a van. Vans are for families. Or, creepers. Or guitar players. Those are the three people it's acceptable to own a van. Anybody else? Just don't look right. I want to get an old panel van, like with a teardrop window in the back and some little balls hanging down from the window and two-tone brown. And then I want to take white paint on the side and write free candy and then scratch out the word candy and underneath write the word Wi-Fi. And then leave it parked out on neighborhood streets. Yeah. Roadside, OnStar, and full tech kit. I don't want none of that. I don't want some stranger riding with me that I can't see or talk to unless I press a button. That's called a dumbwaiter where I come from. It's a bit pedantic, all right? I was called pedantic last night by a guitar player in England, which I thought was hilarious. Here's the transaction. I was watching a video from a popular guitar guy, aficionado, whatever you want to call him, builder. Not build, he doesn't build guitars, he works on guitars. He has a guitar shop. Anyway, he was talking about this guitar that he was going to play, and he said about his amp. He said, I have my amp dimed out to 8. So in other words, he had an amp turned up to 8. But he said dimed out to 8. So I wrote him a little text and said, did I just hear you say your amp was dimed out to 8? Dimed means 10, right? I thought that was a logical question. So he wrote me back and said, that's a bit pedantic. I'm not sure, but I think that's an English insult. So I wrote him back and I said, I prefer erudite, but the point remains. Dollars to donuts, he has to look up what the word erudite means. Probably doesn't know how to spell it either because it's a weird one. You spell it erudite, which is apropos. So if you're going to insult me, get the insult right. That's all I'm saying. I'm not pedantic. I am eruditic. She has a point. Comes with a silly number of warranties and services. Well, yeah. I would imagine so. If it's got all that attached to it, it probably has quite a few things attached to it, which is good if you want that kind of thing. I don't want that kind of thing. I prefer to handle my own business. I certainly don't want to get in a wreck and then have somebody pop over my speaker system going, can I help you? No, you could have helped me 10 minutes ago before I got in a wreck, but right now I'm in a wreck, so, got to handle business. You're definitely pedantic. Come on now. I thought we were friends. I'm something. I don't know what it is. I think erudite fits better than pedantic, though. But thank you. Thank you for noticing. How are you, Snarkin' Sass? Well, I hope. All things are quiet on the home front. It's a slow Monday night. as I expected it to be. Things are going on in the world, but nonetheless, Bible study must ensue, as it will, with me and you, and whoever's going to listen. In the great book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9, verse 9, where we left off last night, and it was quite an interesting story. I didn't want to quit, but alas, I had some questions to answer. Now, might as well get on into it. I don't expect many people come tonight. Everybody's busy with something or other. Hello. That's the wrong one. Thank you. If you got your Bibles handy, crack them open to the great book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9, verse 9, and we'll get started. Oh, thought it wasn't church night. Well, Sunday and Monday night's always church night. Or reading night. I wouldn't call it church. But you're welcome to hang out or not. It's up to you. But I like to have you here. Right now, it's just us anyway. So, as it goes. Wednesday and Friday, however, we talk about all kinds of things. Some of it's religiously based, but for the most part, I try to steer it away from that and do whatever. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good night. And it reads, when I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant which the Lord made with you, then I abode in the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. Neither did I eat bread nor drink water. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone written with the finger of God. And on them was written according to all thy words, which the Lord spake with you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. That would be the day that everybody gathered around the base of the mountain, built a little wall, and then quaintly stayed behind that wall while Moses went up into the mountain into the midst of the fire. Midst of the fire, pyramid. That's interesting. Just one of those words. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And the Lord said unto me, Arise, get thee down quickly from hence, for thy people which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt have corrupted themselves, and they are quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. This is not good. We're talking first date type stuff. This is the first encounter proper with God. And they're already making a false image to worship because they don't honestly know whether Moses is coming back or not. He's been up there for 40 days. But while this is going on, you can look out of the camp up the mountain, which is not a very big mountain. I don't know exactly how tall it is, but it's a small mountain by comparison. It doesn't look very impressive at all if you see it up close. But you can look up there and you can see the entire top of this mountain is encased in smoke, and you can see fire in the midst of that smoke and hear rumblings. You can literally hear God talking to Moses. Whether you could hear what he was saying or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that this localized thunderstorm is on the top of this mountain, which is not a thing that happens. And yet, they didn't know whether he was coming back. They didn't know whether or not they were in the presence of God, even though they could see him, even though they had just witnessed the things he did in Egypt to release them, even though they followed a pillar of fire to this location. They decided to make a golden calf to worship. I guess for good luck. Not very bright people. Furthermore, the Lord spake unto me, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. They are hard-headed. They do not learn very easily. Let me alone, that I may destroy them, and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make of thee a nation mightier and greater than they. Moses says, now hold on a minute. We did a lot of work to get them here. Let's see what we can do with them. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned against the Lord your God, and ye had made you a molten calf. Oh, I skipped one. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tables of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned against the Lord your God, and had made you a molten calf. Ye had turned aside quickly out of the way which the Lord had commanded you. And I took the 2 tables and cast them out of my 2 hands and brake them before your eyes. You see what you made me do? I went up there and spent 40 days getting these stones, and I'm just going to smash them right here in front of you to show you just how dumb what you're doing is. Now I got to go back up there and get them again. Think you can hold on for 40 days while I go back up and do it again? And I fell down before the Lord as at the first, just like I did the first time I encountered him. 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water because of all of your sins which ye sinned in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure wherewith the Lord was wroth against you to destroy you. But the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also. He did listen when I pled for your lives, which you ought to be grateful that you did. He did. And the Lord was very angry with Aaron to have destroyed him. And I prayed for Aaron also the same time. Why was he mad at Aaron? What did Aaron do? Aaron collected the gold to make the golden calf with and probably contributed to making it. Aaron, the brother of Moses, who should know better, who has spoken with God, or he was in the presence of God while Moses spoke with him. He should know better, but he did it anyway. I guess he wasn't taking the whole thing too seriously. And I took your sin, the calf which ye had made, and burnt it with fire, and stomped on it, and ground it very small, even until it was small as dust. And I cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount. Water that they drank, by the way. And at Taberah, and at Masseh, and at Kibroth Havatah. Kibroth Hatavah, that's it. And you provoked the Lord to wrath. Likewise, when the Lord sent you to Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land which I have given you, then ye rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God, and ye believed him not, nor hearkened unto his voice. Ye have rebelled against the Lord from the day that I knew you. Thus I fell down before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, as I fell down at the first, just like I did the first time I met him, because the Lord had said he would destroy you, and I was pleading for your lives. That's why I was there, to keep you from dying. You have been nothing but a headache since the day I met you, but I'm trying to keep everybody alive here. I think Moses is vastly understated for the amount of effort he spent trying to make excuses for the hard-headedness of the Israelites as they journeyed. I prayed therefore unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember thy servants Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin, lest the land which thou broughtest us out say, because the Lord was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he hath brought them out to slay them in the wilderness. That's what the people will say if you kill these people. They'll all turn on you. They'll all say that you weren't able to bring them to the promised land, that you brought them into the wilderness to kill them because you hated them. And then nobody will trust you. That's what Moses is saying to God. And God's thinking it over. and ultimately he sides with Moses. Yet they are thy people and thine inheritance, which thou broughtest out by the mighty power, by thy stretched out arm. At the time the Lord said unto me, Hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and come up into the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest, and thou shalt put them in the ark. And I made an ark of shittim wood, and hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up into the mount, having the 2 tables in mine hand. And he wrote on the tables with his own finger, I might add, wrote the words of the 10 Commandments again, second time, according to the first writing, the 10 Commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them unto me. And I turned myself and came down from the mount, and put the tables in the ark which I had made. And there they be, as the Lord commanded me. And that's where they are to this day, residing in the Ark of the Covenant, which is in a neat little hole tucked under Jeremiah's grotto and somewhere in the middle of Jerusalem. And the children of Israel took their journey from Beeroth of the children of Jachan and Mosera, and there Aaron died, and there he was buried. And Eleazar, his son, ministered in the priest's office in his stead. So Aaron finally passed away. Moses won't be long behind him, I promise. For Aaron died because of his sin. He wasn't allowed to go into the promised land, but he was allowed to go up into a mountain and get his affairs in order and die in peace. From thence they journeyed unto Gadaga, and from Gadaga to Jotbath, a land of rivers of water. At that time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister unto him, and to bless in his name unto this day. Yes, the Levites are a special group of the 12 tribes. They're one of the 12 tribes, but they did not receive an inheritance of land as everybody else did. Why? Because their inheritance was to work for God. They got the church. And they got some pretty sweet perks to go along with that job. As with all ministers, they were allowed to stay in every city. There was a sanctuary area for Levites, and they were allowed to come and go and stay wherever they wanted to for free, as long as they were there doing the Lord's work. And so that was a pretty sweet perk. And they also got fed regularly, and they did all the work in the tabernacle and later in the church. And they were charged with bearing the Ark of the Covenant, picking it up and toting it. Anybody else touch it, they die right there on the spot. But the Levites can touch it. Wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. The Lord is his inheritance, according as the Lord thy God promised him. And I stayed in the mount, according to the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also, and the Lord would not destroy thee. So eventually God saw it Moses' way and allowed the people to live, which is, it could be a good thing. It also probably could have been a good thing if he destroyed them all right there on the spot, started over. We wouldn't have the problems we have now, but it could be worse too. Who knows? And the Lord said unto me, Arise, and take thy journey before the people, that they may go in and possess the land, which I swear unto their fathers to give unto them. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. That's what's required of you. You ever want to know what God wants from you? That's it right there. He requires you to fear him. That word fear means reverence, not terror. He requires you to walk in all of his ways. That means follow the 10 Commandments and the judgments and the statutes that he placed before you. to love him, that's unconditional love from you to him of your own free will, and to serve him. He calls, you answer. That's as simple as that. With all your heart and soul, you do whatever God wants you to do. Those are the things he requires of you. And with that requirement, he offers everything. You get this whole planet to do with as you wish. And you get an afterlife after this planet that lasts forever. You get blessings and you get prayers answered. You get gifts. The whole life is full of God's blessings. And all he wants from you is these 4 things. 5 things. To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. Why does he want you to keep his commandments? For your good. These commandments are designed to cause you to live a clean, wholesome, righteous life. And if you follow them, they will benefit you. Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is the Lord's thy God. The earth also, with all that therein is. All of this belongs to God. The heavens, that's space, and the heaven of heavens, that's where God resides. Only the Lord had a delight in thy fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. He chose these 12 tribes because of their fathers' sakes. The 3 men were God's friends, for a lack of a better word. And he blessed their offspring. And that offspring is the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons. Circumcise, therefore, the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked. What does that mean? Well, you can interpret it many ways, but basically what it means is open your heart, make it available to receive the love of God and the wisdom of God. And in order to do that, you got to shed your secular ways and your secular beliefs, and that's akin to circumcising the foreskin. Why they use those words, I don't know, but that's the way they put it. So there it is. You got to open your heart, circumcise your heart, make it available to receive God. That's also what Paul would teach, by the way. The Jews teach the circumcision of the flesh, meaning every male has to be circumcised at the age of 8 for some traditional reason. But Paul taught that the Gentiles could come to God by circumcision of the heart, meaning it doesn't matter if you actually do the thing or not. What matters is if you're willing. What matters is if you love God and if you seek God. And so for that reason, the Gentiles could come before God also. So you had James teaching the Jewish way to the Jewish people, and Paul teaching the Gentile way to the Gentile people, so that everybody's covered. For the Lord your God is God of gods, lowercase g. He is the God of all other gods. That's why he should be the only God before you. He is also the Lord of lords, lowercase l. A great God, a mighty and terrible. This word terrible, we would translate it today to be awesome. It's the same word. We use this word terrible differently today than they used it back then. Back then it meant awesome. So he is mighty and awesome, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. You can't buy God and you can't impress God. He doesn't see people in any individual way. He sees people as a whole, his creation, his children. He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger, and giving him food and raiment. He likes taking care of people. He likes bringing people in from the wilderness and the cold and into the fold. That's the way of God. That's what he wants you to be like. Love thy neighbor. Half the commandments are about taking care of other people. Love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers once in the land of Egypt. I added the word once because it's in another place in the Bible, but it means that. In the other place it says, be careful how you treat strangers, because you need to remember that you were once a stranger. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt, therefore love the stranger. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God. Again, that word is revere, not terror, the word fear. Him shalt thou serve, and to him shalt thou cleave, and swear by his name. It's better that you don't swear at all, but if you're going to swear, swear before God and keep your promises. He is thy praise, and he is thy God, that hath done for thee these great and terrible things, which thine eyes have seen. This word terrible means awesome again. Thy fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons. That's 70 people. And now the Lord thy God hath made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude. You are so many, they're hard to count. Started out with 70 people. And out of that 70 people, he built a nation. Therefore thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his judgments, and his commandments always. How long do we got to do this? Always. Simple. Know ye this day, for I speak not with your children, which have not known and which have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his stretched out arm, and his miracles, and his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, and unto all his land. And what he did unto the army of Egypt, unto their horses, and unto their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day. And what he did unto you in the wilderness, until ye came into this place, which is right outside of Canaan where they're at now. And what he did unto Dathan and Abiram, I can talk, I'm not having a stroke. What he did unto Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the sons of Reuben, and how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up and their households, and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of all Israel, right in the middle of all of you, the earth opened up and swallowed those people up. Why? Because they turned against God, and that's not why you're here. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord which he did. I'm not speaking to your kids, says Moses. I'm speaking to you. Your children are going to have to take your word for it, but you saw it with your own eyes, what they did, what God did. So after I'm dead and gone, it's going to be up to you to teach your children these things. So listen up. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that you may be strong and go in and possess the land, whither you go to possess it, and that ye may prolong your days in that land, which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey. Now, does that sound like the Canaan area to you? Do you know where it is? Have you seen it on a map? Well, let me assure you, it's in the desert. It is not a land flowing with milk and honey. What does that say to you? Does it say God lied? No, because it's conditional. God said, if you do these things, then this land will always prosper for you. It'll always flow with milk and honey. It'll always provide you with everything you need. But if you go a-whoring after false idols, if you turn against me like you did before, this land will chew you up and spit you out just like it did the previous inhabitants. I won't send people in to kill you, but I might send them in to capture you and make you slaves for a while again. But you will no longer possess the land, and it will no longer produce for you. It will cease to function for you. Well, it don't function, so that ought to tell you what happened. They lasted a little while, but ultimately they turned against God because that's the nature of mankind. It takes a lot of work to stay focused on God and to stay true to your righteousness. It takes a lot of effort to be a good human being. It's really easy to sin and screw up and go against God and do bad things for short-term pleasures. It's really hard to look ahead into the future and make decisions based on the rest of your life. That's called being an adult, and there are very few of those left in the world, if any. For the land whither thou goest in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed and waterest it with thy foot as a garden of herbs. But the land whither you go in to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, that drinketh water of the rain of heaven, a land which the Lord thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year, which basically means it's prosperous because God takes care of it. He tends to it. It's his garden. And it shall come to pass, that if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain. This is a double entendre. It means two different things, by the way. Not only is it speaking of the weather patterns of that particular moment in time, it is also talking about the beginning and the end times of the world. The latter rain, as it were. That thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil, and I will send grass in the fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. This is the part I was telling you about. Take heed to yourselves. Pay attention and listen carefully, that your heart not be deceived, that you not fall under strong delusions, for lack of a better word, and turn aside and serve false gods. Don't worship anything other than Father. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heavens, or the heaven, and there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, lest ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. In other words, you'll starve to death waiting on that land to produce for you if you turn against God and worship false idols. Don't do that. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. Or, translation, wrap a vine around your hand, and inside of that vine have the 10 Commandments. And then put a little box on your forehead, and inside that box put the 10 Commandments. Why? It's symbolic. He doesn't want you to do that, but that's what the Jews do because of this verse. Basically, what he's saying do is memorize my words and do the work that I told you to do. That right hand is always symbolic of doing the work or the strength or the power of something. So what he's saying here in this allegorical way is memorize my words and do them. Simple. And ye shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. In other words, keep it a lively conversation in your house all the time. Don't ever let God leave the conversation. Always keep him first in your life, and you will always do good. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house and upon thy gates, that your days may be multiplied, and that the days of your children in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. For if ye shall diligently keep all these commandments, which I command you, to do them, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to cleave unto him, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours. From the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even the utmost sea, shall be your coasts. That's a pretty good promise in exchange for some love and some loyalty. It's amazing how many people can't even do that in the world. Can't even have a faithful wife these days, let alone a faithful, loyal follower. Servitude seems to be a thing of the past. I vote we bring it back. Who do you serve? I know who I serve. I'm doing it right now. There shall no man be able to stand before you, for the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that ye shall tread upon, as he hath said unto you. Now this word fear means terror, not reverence. It's a different word in the Greek. Behold, or the Hebrew, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse, if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, and go after other gods, lowercase g, which ye have not known. That's the two options you have. I have put you at the fork of the road. Make a decision, left or right. Always go right. Fish off the right side of the boat. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim, and the curse upon Mount Ebal. That means divide yourselves. If you're going to go towards other gods, go over to Ebal. If you're going to follow the word of God, go to Gerizim. I guess that's what that means. I can't think of another way to put an idea on a mountain, unless it means write a plaque and lay it on the mountain. Are they not on the other side, Jordan? Are they not on the other side, Jordan, by the way where the sun goeth down, in the land of the Canaanites? Well, that's where they're headed. Which dwell in the Champion over against Gilgal. In the Champaign over against Gilgal. Beside the plains of Moreh. That's a question, and I have no idea what he's asking here. Are they not on the other side, Jordan, by the way where the sun goeth down, that's east, in the land of the Canaanites, which is west of Jordan, which dwell in the Champaign, or Campaign, over against Gilgal. That's not campaign. What is that? Champagne? Champagne? I don't know what that means. Besides the plains of Moreh, for ye shall pass over Jordan and go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you, and ye shall possess it and dwell therein. And ye shall observe to do all the statutes and judgments which I set before you this day. These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it, all the days that ye live upon the earth. How long are you supposed to follow these? All the days you live upon the earth. If you leave earth, you're open season. You can do whatever you want to do. But as long as you're here. I'm going to look that word up because I don't know what it means. And that one slipped by me. Let me see here. Is there an E? No. Here we go. Champaign is a plain or level country. They are not on the other side Jordan by the way where the sun goeth down, in the land of the Canaanites which dwell in Champaign over against Gilgal beside the plains. Deuteronomy 11:30, which is where we are. A Champaign is a flat open country, and the word occurs in Deuteronomy in the King James Version, blah, 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 blah. And is used to define a region in the valley of Jordan from the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea. All right, that makes it clearer. So what he's saying is, are you not where I told you you would be, which is in this area? I had to think about that one for a minute because the way it was worded is kind of weird. Sometimes old Hebrew don't translate to English very well. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess served their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree, and ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire, and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of the place, utterly wipe them off the face of the earth. They don't belong here, and I don't like it, says God. Destroy all of it. Don't leave it for the next generation. Get it now while you're going. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God, but unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there. Even unto his habitation shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. What does that mean? That means that your God does not want you to build an altar or inscribe his name or build a statue to him or even a house for that matter. He says, until I choose the place, I'll choose the place and the location and the tribe which to build it with. Turns out it's the tribe of Judah, and Solomon will build that temple. But until then, they have a tabernacle that they carry around with them wherever they go, which is just a tent in a courtyard built like a tent's built, stobs in the ground and cloth walls, where they do their sacrificing and their churching and all that good stuff. And thither ye shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithes and your heave offerings of your hand and your vows and your freewill offerings and the firstlings of your herds of your flocks. And there ye shall eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hand unto, ye and your household, wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. There's proof that the sacrifice involves eating. And when he finally finds the place that he wants his house built, and he's talking to David at the time, King David. David says, I want to build your house. And he says, you can't. David says, why not? He said, because you're a man of war. You've had blood on your hands. You can't partake in building the house of God. But your son, he'll be a king of peace. Let him build it. You can gather all the stuff, but let him build it. So that's the way it worked out. Solomon ended up building the temple for God. And that's where they, from that moment on, did all their sacrificing, which is why that building is so important. Ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. That's not the way to think. That's called biased or echo chamber. Every man's right in his own eyes, or every group's right in their own little group. That's not what you're here to do. You're here to follow the words of God, which have been inscribed for you to follow. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance. This word rest is Shabbat. It means peace or refuge, protection from God. I mean, the protection is from God, not being protected from God, which the Lord your God giveth you. But when ye go over Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that ye dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. That's where, once all this is done, and you've conquered all the people and you've settled into your land, then we'll pick a spot to build the temple. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithes and your heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord, and ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, ye and your sons and your daughters, and your manservants and your maidservants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you, but you will take care of him. That's why he's within your gates. See what I'm saying? It's a nice perk. They don't get any land. They don't get any inheritance. They're charged with running the church and toting the Ark of the Covenant around wherever it needs to go. Nobody else can touch it but them. I mean, they literally can't, because if anybody else touches it, they die immediately. But the Levites can do it. But because they don't get an inheritance, they're allowed to stay in any city they come to within this promised land, governed and led by the 12 tribes of Israel. Any city they come to, they got a place to live for free. And they got food to eat for free. They're basically the ward of the state. The state has to take care of them. They're there. And because of that, they do all the work that's required to be done in the church, which is a quite nice deal. Which is why it's necessary to take care of your ministers. When you are taught somewhere, you're supposed to tithe there, because that's how they eat, because they spend all their time learning all the stuff that they're teaching you. They don't have time to go work. There's not enough hours in the day. Some of them work anyway, but they don't make very much because they're busy, focused on the Word. That's why it's important to tithe and to support your local ministry, whichever one you attend. Not every one that you come to, and certainly not ones that are hitting you up all the time, but the one that you're taught from. If you're fed there, then you pay there. That's just the right thing to do. Notwithstanding, thou mayest kill and eat flesh in all thy gates. Whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee, the unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the roebuck and as of the hart. These are two different animals. I don't know exactly what they are, but I know one's clean and one's not. And you're allowed to eat it. Why? Well, because this isn't pre-flood, and because the world needs to move forward. And if you're hungry, you need to eat. Only ye shall not eat the blood. Ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. Always drain the blood out of anything you kill. Don't ever eat it with the blood still in it. Don't ever eat blood. It's not for you. The life is in the blood, and that's not to be consumed. So you drain it out, and you make sure it's well drained, and then you wash it, and then you cook it. Don't eat bloody things. That includes steak, boys and girls. I know you hate it, but I'm telling you, make sure it's a little more done. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of thy corn, or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or the firstlings of thy herds of or thy flocks, or any of thy vows which thou vowest, nor thy freewill offering, nor thy heave offering of thine hand. But thou must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite that is within thy gates. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands unto. So when it comes to offerings or tithings, if you're tithing animals or corn or vegetables or oil or whatever, you can't eat that until it's time to eat it. Then you bring it before the Lord and offer it as a sacrifice, and then you can partake of it, you and your family. Anything else, if you want it, you go kill it and you can eat it. Doesn't matter. But if you choose it for an offering, then it needs to go to wherever the tabernacle is, whether it be the tabernacle or the temple of God, or the temple of David, rather. Wherever the sacrifices are being done, that's where you have to take that to. And then you go through the procedure of the sacrifice, which is very pageantry. There's a lot of pageantry involved, and it's very ornate in the way that they do the thing. And once it's done, very ritualistic. That's the word I was looking for. Once it's done, then you can partake of it, and you can partake of it all and eat to your full, and then rejoice. Take heed to thyself that thou forsake not the Levite as long as thou livest upon the earth. Take heed. I'm warning you. You take care of the Levites. As long as you're living on this earth, you take care of the Levites. Why? Because they didn't get anything. They can't take care of themselves because they're busy working. That involves the ministry. You understand? This is a warning from God telling you directly, take heed and take care of the Levites. Take heed and take care of the ministers. Take heed and take care of those who spend their time teaching you, because nobody else is going to do it, and you need it. And they need it to be taken care of because they have other obligations. So that's in the Bible. I didn't make it up. When the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border, as he hath promised thee, going to make you a greater nation, bigger than the one you got. And thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longeth to eat flesh. Thou mayest eat flesh, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. Wherever you can go find it, go kill it and eat it. Be my guest. Unless it's a sacrifice, then you take it to the temple. Even as the roebuck and as the hart is eaten, so thou shalt eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. This is the end of that particular rule where they were only allowed to eat one certain thing. So anybody ever tells you, well, they can't eat such and such, that's not true. The whole kosher thing, that's not true. Here it is in black and white, God telling them himself, go eat whatever you need to eat to survive. If your heart lusteth after it, go get it. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. You can't have the life, it's not yours. That belongs to God. You pour it out on the ground. This is probably symbolic of the murder of Abel, where his blood was spilled on the ground, and it cried out to God, and God came a-looking for him. I don't know that it is, but it's rather similar, that you pour the blood out onto the ground, and that life then cries out to the Father, and he comes and gets it. I don't know. I guess that's how that works. Sounds good. Thou shalt not eat it. Thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water. Let it seep into the ground. Thou shalt not eat it, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. Only thy holy things which thou hast, and thy vows, thou shalt take, and go unto the place which the Lord shall choose, which will eventually be the tabernacle turned into a temple. And thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, upon the altar of the Lord thy God. And the blood of the sacrifices shall be poured out upon the altar of the Lord thy God. And thou shalt eat the flesh. What do you do with the flesh? You eat it. That's not for God. The blood is for God. And it gets burned up on the altar as it goes. But then you eat it. So basically, the sacrifice is just a big cookout where everybody gets together and worships God and then has a big hearty meal afterwards. Basically, there's more involved, but that's basically it. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee and with thy children after thee forever, when thou doest that which is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God. And that's where I'm going to stop today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll pick up next Sunday, chapter 12, verse 29. What a fantastic read that was tonight, 12:29. I hope that touched your heart. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it left you craving for more. That's what I hope. I hope that it makes you want more. Come back for more. I'll read you more. But until then, would you please do me a favor and go to rumble.com/UntetheredLive and hit the subscribe button. We need to build that channel up to 25 subscribers so I can then begin to live stream through Rumble. Now, the videos will still be on YouTube. They'll just be being made over at Rumble so that they can't be censored anymore. So that if YouTube decides to censor my content, it will still be available elsewhere and you can go get it. Simple as that. It is a defense. It is an alternative to the overlords at YouTube. So please go over there and help us out. And also, hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon so you get notifications of when I'm going to be online. Smash that like button. It's free. It's effortless. It's right in front of you. It takes no effort at all, and it really does help the channel with the algorithms. It helps us get recommended to other people. Won't you do that, please? Share this video with somebody you love. Better yet, share it with somebody you don't love. Bring them into the family. Make them part of the fold. Be part of their solutions, not part of their problems. Leave comments down below and let me know what you're thinking about. Question me, curse me, bless me, challenge me, confront me, conform with me, drink my Kool-Aid. Make your own Kool-Aid as long as you're thinking critical. That's what I really want. Critical thought coming from that brain of yours. And hey, if you love the Word of God and you can see the value in what I'm trying to build here, or if you feel led to send your tithes, offerings, or love offerings, or if you feel like you're getting fed from this Word, you can support my work. You can do that by going to paypal.me/jakejohnsonband. Or if you're a CashApp user, you can go to $JakeJohnsonBand. Believe me, every little bit helps. It's a win-win. It's a blessing for me, but it's a blessing for you too, because as I just illustrated in the words we just read tonight, God notices these things and He's paying attention. So, with that in mind, I will do everything in my power to be worthy of your support and your confidence and your trust, and I appreciate you greatly for the support in the work that I do. And now, I will round out this video, and if there are any questions to be answered, I will answer them. All right. It's a slow Monday. Boy, this is the slowest one I've ever had, I think. Understood, though, there's things going on in the world. Hey, MVTV. Yes, it is a slow night, sir. I was wondering if I was going to see you this week. I've been missing you. How are you doing? Has the snow cleared up? And are you healthy and spry? And getting by? Healthy, spry, and getting by. It has been a rough night, but everybody had plans tonight for some reason. So you do what you got to do. Can't win them all. It was warm and clear the last 2 days, so outside working until the sun fails at 7:30. I hear you, brother. That's a good way to be. I wish I had that kind of energy. I used to have it somewhere along my 30s. It just kind of went away. I don't know what happened. I think marriage and kids had something to do with it, but also probably rocking and rolling full tilt might have had something to do with it. You can't burn your candle at both ends forever. At some point, you get to the middle. Lots of stuff to do. Getting ready for planting. Still tons of snow everywhere except the walking areas, but it's melting fast. That's good. I figured it would take a while to melt. It seemed like there was a lot of snow out there. Several feet. I know it snowed 4 feet here one time, and there was snow on the ground for like a month. It only snowed that one weekend, though. Dropped 4 feet and quit. And that snow lasted a long time. It was in the parking lots for days and days and days. Big piles of it where they scooped it all up into the corners. They're like, that ain't even real snow. It's just 4 feet, which ain't much, by comparison. Some places get 8, 9 feet, 10 feet, more, And that was the only time it snowed here in any real capacity since I've lived here for 20 years. It snowed a few times, but it's always thin, It ain't never been like real snow. That was the only real snow we've had here. But even that wasn't real snow. Gophers kick up great deep bottomland soil. So you grab that in a wheelbarrow, add some farm fresh fertilizer and stuff. Just boosts starter plants wonderfully, as it does. Anytime you can use good soil to plant in, that's a wonderful thing. There's something else you could do, too. You could dig you a little pit and throw all your trash in that pit. Like, not trash, but like leftover food and things that can be easily burned, not like plastic, none of that. But, and then burn it, and then cover it, and burn it and cover it, and keep doing that until you get that little hole filled up with ash or whatever. And then come in and plow it up and turn all that dirt over until it's all mixed into the soil. And then you'll have nitrogen-rich soil that things will just shoot up in and grow real big, everything. It takes a while, but it's similar to the concept of composting, but it's done with ashes. And it really does. I mean, the South Americans been doing that for years, throwing their fish bones and everything in a little area and then burning it. And then turning it over in the soil as they go. And they got some of the richest soil in the world. Best soil for growing there is. We are, of course, nearly 300% average on precipitation. But just about the only little place in Montana with zero drought. I hear you. Compost is standard procedure. Yep. I hear you. We were thinking the same thing then. I'm not a farmer, but I do know a couple things. But I sometimes forget that other people know that stuff too. It's not a typical thing around where I'm at, Just trying to help. Trying to be helpful. Trying to be useful. I don't have a family with which to converse, so tag, you're it. The burning type is too dangerous in the summer for the value of what you get volume-wise. Well, yeah, I can imagine that. It ain't real dangerous if you got a place cordoned off, that ain't close to anything that can burn, but still, I understand what you're saying. It does take a while to build that up. It really helps if you got a village throwing all their leftovers in the hole. One guy probably would take forever. But like if you could work out something with the local diner and all their leftovers get brought to your house and dumped in that hole, one, it would give them a place to put their stuff that they would typically have to throw away or take to the landfill, and two, it would provide you with a good compost. I guess that's what you call that. I don't even know if that's considered compost, but it's basically the same idea, only instead of turning over roots and stuff and straw and food and gray water, you're using ashes. You could also burn logs, anything organic you can burn, and makes that nitrogen-rich soil. But just don't, if you do that, don't add any plastics or anything like that, because it'll taint the ground. You can't get those plastics, don't ever go away. They're there forever. Yep, I do not produce much organic waste, and what there is generally is acceptable to the rabbits and pheasants. Yep. Pheasants love leftover crappy wet cat food. The cats ignore. I hear you. My cats gobble up everything I put out there, so they don't have any leftovers. But back when I had a family living in this house, we had chickens, and we'd just take our leftovers out there and give them to the chickens, and they always ate it up. They had some healthy chickens. Cornbread-fed chickens, what we like to call them. But now I just got a bunch of cats. I'm a crazy cat lady. And it's just me here, and I don't eat that much. So, ain't no leftovers to throw out. Well, it sure is a slow night. Nothing wrong with that. Kids, yeah. If you like cats. I don't even like cats, but you got to give love somewhere. You know what I mean? If you're not giving love, you're not living right. So I chose to love the animals that were provided for me by the Lord, they're here. I didn't invite them. They just came. So I take care of them, because if you're not taking care of somebody, you're not living right. You got to take care of something. As part of being a human being is producing love, not just receiving it. You got to give it. Helps you grow. It's good for your soul. I still have to be careful as bears and lions are around. Bears will vector in on anything smelly for miles, as you know. I do know about bears. P.S. You get lots of rewatch hours. Yes, sir, I do. For whatever reason, most people that watch my show don't watch it live. I guess it may be the time of night that I do it. Maybe they're tired, or maybe that's their TV time or party time or whatever. But there's a lot of people that watch this show during the week. The character is in the consistency. One or none. You schedule it, you do it. That's right. I am grateful for that, too. I'm glad people are watching. So that's why I did it tonight, even though I knew nobody would be here. And I'm glad you came. I wasn't expecting you to come, so thank you for that. I'm more active during later afternoon, early evening, as that's usually the warmest parts. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I have to work all day, so the only time I can do it is right after I get home and get settled in. And it's about 8 o'clock by that time. I get eaten and all that good stuff. Get cleaned up. Then it's time to do the podcast. I usually try to go to about 10 o'clock and then cut her off. I'd probably cut out a little early tonight since it's so slow. And after 4 months stuck inside or outside for no reason but standing in the snow, you bet any chance to start things up is taken. 2 days of maybe snow coming now, then back to warm. Well, yeah, we had a weird weather event happen this week at the beginning of at the end of last week, the beginning of this week. It just got super cold all of a sudden. It was nice and warm outside, like 80 degrees, 70 degrees, and then all of a sudden it was freezing. And it's been that way pretty much half the week. So whatever happened up north pushed all that cold air down this way. I would imagine that happened around where you're at. Yeah, there may be some entertainment tomorrow if Trump gets nabbed. Any protests is a bad idea, though. It's bait. I agree. I think they're setting this up as a publicity stunt, most of all to knock him out of the race for president, but I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I think it's going to propel him to victory because people do not like the government doing what they're doing. This is not what they're supposed to be doing. This is political witch hunt. That's exactly what it is, and everybody knows it. So there's a possibility it might not even happen. The higher-ups may not let this guy go after Trump because 2 reasons. Number one, she accepted the money that he offered her, even though he didn't know it came from where it came from because his lawyer handled it. But she took the money, so it's two consenting adults making a trade. That's not illegal. It's not like she tried to avoid it or tried to turn the money down. She took that money and ran with it. So there's no case. And number two, the statute of limitations are up. It's only a 2 years of statute of limitations, and it was 6 years ago when it occurred. So even if the guy arrests Trump, he can't keep him because the number three thing is it's a misdemeanor, what he's being charged with. So it ain't like he's going to do any real time for it or anything like that. So basically, this is just a publicity stunt. Now, whose publicity stunt, I don't know which side, but that's all it really is. And it's probably done in order to smear his name so he can't run for president. I don't think that's going to be the effect, and neither do a lot of higher-up thinkers like Elon Musk thinks the same thing I do, that if they go ahead with this and arrest Trump, they're guaranteeing he's going to win the election because people will rebel against that idea. This would be the first president in U.S. history that's ever been prosecuted for anything. That's not good. At this point, I think they think it's worth it for a possible J620. It should never have gotten to this point, so all bets are off about indicting more chaos, period. I agree. Everybody knows the weakness of it. Everybody notes the statute of limitations, the misdemeanor status, etc. Yes, still it rolls on. Chaos, chaos, chaos. You know who the agent of chaos is? The bad guy, the devil. And this is his world. So any chance he gets to shake things up, he's going to. He is the agent of chaos. And chaos is what we have in spades. Lots of it. All right, MVTV. It's 10 minutes till, so I'm going to go to bed. I love you. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for showing up when nobody else did. That means a lot to me. I won't forget it. I hope you enjoyed what you heard of the read. And all you people that are watching later, thank you for showing up. Please do go over to rumble.com/UntetheredLive and hit subscribe so I have an alternative to YouTube where I can keep bringing you content on a weekly basis, 4 times weekly. And that way, we can't be stopped. So help me out with that if you can. I love you guys, and I'll see you Wednesday. Have a great night. God bless you all. God bless you, MVTV. Stay safe, stay warm, stay fed, and I'll see you Wednesday. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.